Okay, so let's get into it. Today we are doing a deep dive into uh, a really powerful reflection from Jaime Hoerricks, a PhD, on the systemic barriers inside special education.
And it's so much more than just a critique. The way it's framed is fascinating. It's written as a letter to her future students, and to the principal she hopes will trust her work.
Which sets the stage perfectly. It's an invitation to build something new. So our mission for this deep dive is to trace that journey, from being this deep insider to having this moment of, well, clarity.
And really focusing on what the system asks for in return. What is the price of admission or the price of advancement?
Exactly, the cost. Because, as we'll see, that price can be far too high.
And the alternative she proposes is, it's a radical vision, a classroom built for, and this is a direct quote, whole minds, slower thinking, and coherence over performance.
Coherence over performance. We'll definitely come back to that.
The goal being that students can learn without disappearing. That one phrase, it just lands so heavily.
It really does. And for you, the listener, it's important to understand the perspective here. This isn't an attack from the outside. This is insight that was earned. It's clarity that only comes after you've done the work, you've mastered the machinery of the system itself.
Right. You have to understand just how deep her involvement was before we can even talk about her decision to step away from it.
So let's start there. With the years she spent navigating it all, she describes building a life inside special education. This wasn't just a 9-to-5 job.
No, not at all. She talks about trying to hold two things at once. Her students' needs and, crucially, her own way of knowing.
Which the system isn't always built for.
It's usually built for one specific way of knowing. And she became, completely fluent in the language of the system. We're talking about the tangible stuff.
The paperwork.
Oh, the mountains of paperwork. But also the assessments, the eligibility criteria, knowing how to write an IEP that will actually get a student what they need. She mastered all of it.
She became an expert navigator of the very systems that create these barriers.
Yes, and that brings us to the core attention, the real heart of the problem for her. While she was getting fluent in the language of access for her students,
Opening doors for them, fighting for them.
her own access, her own professional standing, it remained, as she puts it, provisional, negotiated anew each time.
Wow. So she's a master of a system that only grants her a temporary pass.
It's an unsustainable contradiction, isn't it? You're wielding this powerful system for others, but you yourself are always on probation. It requires just a constant state of vigilance.
And that must be exhausting. Which leads to the moment of clarity she describes.
Yeah.
This vantage point. It doesn't arrive at a burst of anger, though.
No, she's very clear about that. It arrives after long work when the argument has been made and the cost has been counted. And the result is clarity, not anger.
She calls it the porch, a vantage point.
And that word is so important. It's a vantage, not a retreat. She's not running away defeated.
She's just gained enough distance to finally see the whole structure for what it is, to see the machine she was working inside of.
Exactly. So she can finally say something without defiance because it's not an emotional reaction anymore. It's an objective observation from a place of earned insight.
But I have to push back a little here. After years of that kind of struggle, couldn't it just be burnout? Couldn't this clarity just be bitterness that's finally setting in?
That's a fair question, and I think the source addresses it by focusing on the ledger. She says it's not about an emotional outburst. It's about what happens when you finally stop and read the ledger honestly.
And accounting.
Transactional accounting. And what that ledger shows her is that the system was never, ever designed to allow someone like her to advance without self-erasure.
Self-erasure. That's the cost. That's the non-negotiable price on the ledger. For the listener, what does that really mean in a practical sense? Is it just, hiding who you are?
It can be, but it's often much more subtle. It's about absorbing the system's demands for a certain pace, a certain kind of energy.
A certain communication style.
Right. A way of being that might contradict your own authentic self. But you do it because that's the professional mold. And if you don't fit that mold, your competence is immediately questioned.
And there was a catalyst for this realization, wasn't there? A specific training session.
Yes, and this is the key. The training wasn't some uniquely horrible experience. She stresses that it was significant because it was perfectly ordinary. It asked nothing outrageous.
The harm is in the ordinary. It's in the everyday things everyone accepts as normal.
That's how systemic issues persist. They're not in the outrageous acts. They're in the rituals we all just accept as the way things are done.
So let's dig into that idea of ordinary harm. She identifies two just devastating assumptions that were baked into that standard training. The first one is that it simply assumed a nervous system I do not have.
And then it had the audacity to call that assumption professionalism.
Right. So think about what that means. The speed of the presentation, the bright lights, the expectation that you're always on and ready to perform.
The rapid-fire questions, the demand for quick synthesis, all of that is just assumed to be the default. If you need more time to process or if the sensory input is overwhelming, you're not seen as thoughtful. You're seen as unprofessional or not ready.
Which connects directly to the second assumption. The training required endurance and called it readiness.
Yes. It wasn't about the quality of your insight. It was about your stamina. Can you sit through the 8-hour session and still perform on their schedule?
It's a false metric. It's judging your body's compliance, not your mind's contribution. If you can run the marathon they set, you're deemed ready, even if you collapse at the finish line completely drained.
And this all leads to the transactional nature of it all, what does she call it? The upstream-downstream dynamic.
Yes. This is terrifying when you see it clearly. The training offered access downstream only if I was willing to absorb harm upstream.
It's a gate. You have to pay this physical, mental, emotional toll, that's the upstream harm, just to get the credential or the promotion that's waiting downstream.
It's like being told you have to swim across a freezing river to get to a warm house. And then they're surprised you're shivering when you finally get inside.
You're damaged by the very process that's supposed to be empowering you. And she says, once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. It changes how you view every single professional opportunity.
It becomes the lens for everything.
Yeah.
So you're on that porch, you've read the ledger, you see the pattern. What do you do next?
Well, the conclusion becomes unavoidable. The source is very direct about it. There is no viable path forward for me within special education as it is.
The current structure is just fundamentally incompatible.
But again, it doesn't end there in despair. It ends in architecture. It's a blueprint for something new, something built on integrity instead of compliance.
The new classroom,
Right.
the one designed to actively fight against those demands we just talked about.
Yeah.
So instead of self-erasure, it's built for holding whole minds.
Which means it's an environment designed to accommodate difference, not penalize it. It throws out the idea of a standard issue nervous system.
And it champions slower thinking. That's a direct challenge to a world that equates speed with intelligence.
It is. It trusts that deep thought takes time. And that leads to the biggest shift of all.
Prioritizing coherence over performance. This feels like the foundation of the whole new model. Performance is what the system measures, output, speed, test scores. But what is coherence?
Coherence is internal. It's about deep, genuine understanding. It's when learning has been integrated into who you are, not just memorized for a test. You're not just performing knowledge, you are coherent in your understanding.
It's about trust and tempo, letting knowledge develop at its own pace.
Precisely. If you're coherent, you truly get it. If you're just performing, you might just be a really good mimic.
And this is where it gets really interesting for you, the listener, because this critique goes way beyond the world of education.
Oh, absolutely. Think about any corporate or academic setting. Think about the hoops you have to jump through.
The mandatory training, the unspoken rules about communication, the pressure to work overtime just to be seen as a team player.
All of those things can be a form of this upstream harm. They are systems that might be demanding you erase a part of yourself just to get ahead. We're all negotiating this kind of provisional access and maybe not even realizing the toll it's taking.
So, to bring this all together,
Yeah.
we've traced this path from an expert insider to a clear-eyed observer. And the central discovery is this difference between provisional access, which the system offers,
And the non-negotiable price of self-erasure it demands in return. A price hidden inside perfectly ordinary, everyday professional standards that most of us never even think to question.
which leaves us with a really fundamental challenge. And it's an architectural one, as you said.
It is. It's about building something different right now.
So if we accept this premise, that the conventional path requires you to absorb harm upstream to get access downstream, what do we do? What are the immediate practical structures we need to build to create an environment, whether it's for learning or for work, that actually supports whole minds? How do we make it so that learning, or just advancing in your career, doesn't require you to disappear?
That's the question, isn't it? How do we make coherence, not performance, the default setting for success?